Okay, I got it. So, for a second there, I totally went to a different kind of screen, which was nothing. Couldn't see myself. And so, therefore, I was a little concerned, so concerned, and that's just real, that I changed what I was doing and changed to another computer because I knocked over my coffee on my computer. Crazy. Well, it's time to talk about the disturbing, because it is so disturbing, understanding reality as to where we are in 2021 as African American people. And where we truly are is behind the eight ball. And it went in too early. You know what I'm saying? We didn't get any of the benefits out of well, we did. We got a lot of investments. And we got a lot of people that are engaged in the process of public education. That's true. I'll put my little light on here. Make that work here. And turn it on. Okay. Makes a difference. See? It's like it's morning time. And in 2021, as a people, we lack leadership. And why do I say it's leadership? Because a good leader would be able to identify the resources and utilize them and then produce an outcome. But here, the leaders want to be the first one in front of the room, and they always have to talk. They always have to tell what their spin is, and you always have to hear the same thing. When all around you is it's frightening because it's criminal activity that happens here in Las Vegas. And I kind of understand, gambling, the history of America, and how it happened in Vegas. Most people do, and most people know, who had no idea that I didn't have any idea that Tupac was murdered here on the streets of Vegas. But then DMX died, and he was just really engaging with the people, the young people, and helping them to become awakened. Mm. But we are living in 2021, soon to be 2022. And we, the people, do not have the ability to rescue ourselves because we are not in the room. And it's just so concerning that we have so many Black educated people living here in Clark County. And there's no footprint. Well, there's the Oasis, the Club Oasis, and they're really trying to build up out there off of Lake Mead and out there by, the historic West Side. But it's just a small number of people. And the real deal is the venue has to be larger in order to accommodate our people, because we are accommodated for, when Drake comes to town, or, all the Black people come to town and they have huge concerts. Let's not everybody understand Travis Scott and what happened with Travis Scott. And I didn't even know the young man's name. Hadn't listened to any of his rap that I know of. But the young people knew him. And that concert had 50,000 people with ticket sales of $50 to $80. Okay, do the math. They would like to pretend that it's this young man's fault. But if he's not in the coordination of services in that town, it is the town's fault, just as it is the town's fault for the people who were in that little hick town, whatever, it was a town in USA. And an African American man decided to drive through the parade, the Thanksgiving parade, and he injured and killed people. And he was crazy out of his mind. And it turns out that he was in jail right before that. But, mental health of people, mental health in America. We are living under just a broken system where the harvest is real. And if you don't understand what I'm saying by the harvest, African Americans have always been the harvest. But now you folks with no money are lining up with the African Americans. And that's just real. We've always been on the bottom. But to tell the truth, there are people who look like me who are on the top of the world. Hell, O.J. Simpson, he retired here and he's doing exactly what I'm doing, streaming, talking about what he knows. But you can only talk about what you know in life. If you don't know it, you can't speak it. So it just behooves the shit out of me is that we cannot talk about the failure of public education system here in Nevada because I know it exists. And I know there are people that are very qualified to understand what's happening. But I also know that they've been shut out. Just as they attempted to shut me out here on Facebook when they're saying there's something wrong with my streaming software, but I paid for this and I'm going to pay for it again. And I guess tell you, if there's something wrong with it, then you better deal with who did I got this streaming from? Zoom. You better deal with Zoom. Because then your agreement with Zoom is that I can go live on Facebook and I can go live on YouTube and that you would not prohibit the services that I paid for. Do you understand what fraud is? Maybe a lot of people just don't understand negligence or fraud or disparate impact. Let's just talk about that word. Disparate impact, meaning that you're doing things that are bringing harm to a community. Shall we all say amen? Because that's what's happening here. And I was so angry, I just couldn't even contain my anger. And I'll tell you why. What happened? It's not summertime. This is my summertime shot, my picture. But I'll tell you. So my mom, they're saying, that she's very, very ill. And I'm going to pray for her. And I ask all the people that follow me on faith, pray for my mother because she's the reason why I had an opportunity to help you. And that's just real. But I'm going to go ahead and say what I saw. Because you wouldn't understand what I saw unless you saw it yourself, and unless you were in the frame of mind that I am in today. And I'm telling you, I am in a rage. Why? Because I walked into In-N-Out Burger. I like In-N-Out Burger. I'm sure many people do. And then this big old huge bus pulled up. It was a bus. It was big as a yellow bus. But it was, I think it was a Dodge. But it held it could hold up to 20 people in that van. It pulls up around, this little elderly white woman pops out. And she's older than me. I know she was older than me. And then her son pops out and a daughter. And then all of these black children, must have been about 10 of them, stair-stepped from 4 years old or 8 years old and 11 years old. These kids were within the range of teens, not even teens, babies, before the teen ages. They had 2 girls that were pretty, but I mean, these were children from at least 10 different families because there were 10 children there. And they all had different parents. And I'm going to tell you, they all had different sperm donors. Because when I was curious, I asked the young man, well, what is this? You guys have a halfway house? He says, oh no, this is our family. These children are all adopted. They were all black. They were all adopted. And here in Nevada, where they continue to pay the adoption resources and fees, if you adopt a child, you get paid to adopt the child here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay, let's just talk about the welfare system, shall we? Welfare. It limits you to a certain amount of money that is not going to come to your pocket because you had a kid. And then, the Build Back Better, the Biden-Harris plan that gives extra $300 to children under a certain age. And an extra money, I think $500 for children who are even younger. And that's child care money. Because what act was it? The ARP Act, the American Rescue Plan, had dollars set aside for child care for, the workers, pandemic workers who had to continue to work during this COVID. Because we have people who worked and people who had child care needs. Come on now, let's not pretend. This is America. If you work, you just got to work. And whatever your work is, then you just know what it is you're driven to do. And I had to think about what I'm talking about because I was so angry. I just didn't even understand why the rage came over me. But it came over me because they are harvesting our children. As African Americans, we are denied the ability to speak our concerns regarding the failure status of the people who look like us. Why? Because they may say that they're not your children. No, they're not. But on the whole, the obligation for the state to create environments in which capacity is built and not capacity is built on the backs of the black children, as it is very clearly articulated in federal legislation as to reasons why there will be no waiver this year. And no waiver since 2017. That's when that waiver stuff ended. What is a waiver in the first place? Well, see, y'all have to know what the rules say. And the rules actually say that no waivers, because under ESSA there is no waivers. And that means that the work that the state should have been doing to engage the community, the works that the state should have been doing to build capacity within the school district, all these things are things that were an assumption that happened. So if you assumed that it was happening, then you just made an ass out of yourself, because it never was happening. These people went to local control so that they could fish the federal dollars and do what the hell they wanted to do. And that's what they've been doing. That's why Facebook is frustrated with me. And I'm frustrated with Facebook. But when they mute me and there's something wrong with my streaming software, then I'm going to have to contact the manufacturer and see what the hell's going on. This is not, come on now. Y'all don't understand network management. Y'all don't understand the power that we have given up already. And we have no control over what they do to us. Zero. Do you think Mary Wells died in the middle of the night from a regular, normal heart attack when she had not been showing any signs? When she had the money to go to the doctors? When they couldn't talk about what actually happened? There was nothing established. Just like, my mom is sick. She just got sick. All of the reasons. I don't know why. But I can tell you, sometimes leg cramps are real. And you don't know what's causing them. But you better know this in 2021. We're all talking about the mark of the beast. I think we've already accepted it. Because I think through the satellite, they can do a lot of things to you. Period. It's not a joke anymore. Because it's possible. Because you people get Comcast and Cox Cable, and you wrap your houses around, and got an intense area where they can increase radiation on your ass. And I'm telling you, it's the mentality of sick folk, because they do it. Just like they would mute me. Where's my closed captioning? Yeah. No. Yeah, I'm just gonna assign to. I will type. I'm not copy to the token. I don't know what that means, but I just want to make sure that if they mute me, you still hear me, because it's critical. In the end days, you don't know when the end days are, and neither do I. But what I do know is that every child can learn something. But how are they measuring the benefit of children where they're removing for their own personal safety, supposedly? But how is it that that woman had more than 10 children that she had adopted because she's still getting paid? And they won't even give our people what? You get $50 more on your anywhere, and they're watching your ass. You're a criminal. They've made you a criminal, but they've made themselves something more sickening, more disgusting. Because every time I see white elderly people with young black babies, why is it? It's not that our people don't want to do this. No, it's because they're denied the same resources as the other people, because they may be kin. Don't you understand what kinship brings? Same color, same fear. Why are we gonna pay you to have babies so you can have more babies, and we gonna take care of you? We gonna take care of your babies. We get to do what we want to do with them, and they do. 49% African American children in the foster care system, and God damn it, when you go to the In-N-Out Burger, and this boy tells me that this is something that they do for them during the holidays. Our family, we always bring our family out during the holidays and treat them to In-N-Out Burger. Well, goddamn, they had 10 African American babies. 10! In a big ass van. And I know they got a goddamn house that's bigger than the one I live in. And why? Because they chose to adopt African American children. And which is criminal. And which you can listen to so many senators talking about, oh, we have so many foster children, and our family is just so big. And, we love all of our children equally. I just want to know what happened to those children. Are they at Harvard, or are they at Yale, or, are they at Michigan State? Even Michigan State, or wherever. But how is it that we're measuring the benefit for the children who are being transitioned through that system of health and human services? Because the harvest is real, and I'm here to expose the truth. And the truth is, failure has never been an option in public education, as that's why the federal government actually provides support for the original sounders. I don't know what that means over there because let's just check something. Yeah, my built-in microphone working on this laptop. My microphone working on my MacBook Pro doesn't work anymore. Neither does my sound. But we're going to take it in the shop and leave it and drop it off because it's full, memory full, and they just need to back my shit up and do whatever because it's real. Now, what were we talking about? We were talking about the harvest and how that woman, she was up in age, and you could tell she was up in age. Now, I dealt with someone that was up in age with my son Tyler when he was in the, what is that, pre-kinder. He was in first grade, I think. And he had someone that was working with him, and he said, Tyler said, "Teacher, do this. Owie, owie, hurt, owie, owie, hurt." And I said, "Oh, she did." And he said, "Oh, never mind, mommy. It's okay, mommy." I said, "Oh no, it's not okay. We're gonna handle that." Went right in there and called for an immediate meeting, emergency meeting with the IEP. She said, "What? Me? Never." I said, "You's a goddamn liar." And Michael Rosenberg got up and said, "Darlene, it's this way." I got up and I walked out the room. He says, "I got this." And he did. And we left Caleb Greenwood Little School in, what is that considered? I think it has to be east, Sacramento, towards the east. But the deal is that we got out of there, and then it was right across the street from J Street, the college. It's in that area, but it's in a ritzy area. You get me? Where they were busing those kids in because they needed the revenue. And y'all don't understand when they do busing like they do busing here. Because the punitive process for children who don't make it. And then, how can you talk about what they're doing when they're not providing equity? And I don't understand it, because when you start talking about the transportation, now this is where they want to put the majority of money, how they spend the money, through transportation and food deserts. Okay. But, we need to know just who's on those buses, because they're being bussed away from their gifted and talented placement. And you know who wrote the legislation for that? Nevada legislators. I don't understand how legislators could assume and presume that they can misalign the federal dollars, meaning that you don't hold people accountable for the use of the restrictive funds. Restrictive funds is what we're talking about. And we're talking about there are certain agencies that have been utilizing the restrictive funds and in manners in which they were not supposed to utilize. And guess what, boo? Gotta tell you a little joke. It's gonna happen. Change is gonna come. Change is gonna come. Who made that song? Sam Cooke? I don't know. No. Curtis Mayfield? I don't know. You could just go on your phone and just say, change is gonna come. And that's just real, because change needs to come. As we are living in the end days, and boo, I gotta tell you, I'm not here to report when it's gonna happen, and I wouldn't know. But what I can report is what I see is dysfunction all around me. And when I see this, so many African Americans are complicit in paying their taxes. It's just something that they do. And they pay all that money in taxes, especially for the people who make a lot. But then, they say, to whom much is given, much is expected in return. My niece is calling me again. I don't know why. Are you calling me? I think I'm doing that. I put my phone down and I was calling her. It's always doing more than what you want it to do. Cell phones. They constantly listen, they constantly track, and they constantly do whatever. And you don't know what they're doing. But you're going to trip about a mask. Amen. The mask. So I listened to Nevada Ledge, and they wouldn't pass the mask mandate for the people working over there in colleges. But see, the federal government already said mandate. So they're caught in this quagmire between what they want to do and what they're required to do by law. But I want to tell you about that little requirement, the little thing called regulatory guidance, the little thing called regulatory guidance, the little thing called regulatory guidance, non-binding regulatory guidance. What is non-binding regulatory guidance? Well, it means we're suggesting you do this because the obligation is that you do this. But if you're unwilling to do this and you don't, well, should we come in and do an audit? It's on you, boo. So wake the hell up. There are obviously people who had never experienced any level of accountability here in Clark County. And hey, I'm all about accountability. They made sure that they held me accountable. Yes, that's Johnny on the spot, because if they could have served me for my student who was in the spectrum, who was autistic, who was, had some real behavior issues, and who was a runner in elementary school. But that's what they plan to do. They act as if, you don't have the ability to become bold and independent. Just you could make it happen. I'm a make it happen woman. But I'm not looking for anything in this world except for the outcomes of the promise as to what the Constitution offered, which would be free and appropriate public education. Now, and then to establish that process within the community of conversation. But when you deny us the ability to have that limited conversation just about what you're doing, well, what planet is this where y'all live in? It's the Twilight Zone to me, and hell no. This shit doesn't flow because failure is just failure. And I don't care how you change the game or change the number or change the colors. When you sit down at a meeting, a public meeting, saying that these are just the numbers, this really doesn't mean anything's going to change. What the hell do you think that meant? I just want to know. And then you have board people who are elected to represent your ass, and they can't even start a conversation about the data. And actually, in the 3 years that I've been here, they have never had a conversation about the data. And as the federal government funds basically on the data, well, let's get the data. They've got some still wiggle room. Not much, but they've got wiggle room. And that's just real. So what are we talking about? Frightening. Because this is 2021. Jimmy Baldwin, an amazing character who had a love for whatever he loved and had a knack for talking about whatever he wanted to talk about. And it's one who can engage the mind of others. That's why they fear them. Because as long as you're an idiot standing in front of the room blocking what? Your ability to be in charge of, and you want to make everything about your ass so wonderful. And then we look at, well, what's happening to the people? What kind of leadership is being provided here? When the people who have the skills are prohibited from doing the advocacy, self-advocacy. We're just talking about advocating for yourself. But they're prohibited from doing that. Why? Because people want to look good. They want to do them. And in a world where you do you, baby, and this is what it's about, you just do you. But you better protect your ass. That's what I've always told my children. Protect yourself. Because no one else will. That's just real. And it's so sad that our people have not designed a platform nationwide to talk about failed services, because the parents are intimidated by the school professionals or employees that can have their children arrested or taken away. Don't you understand the Harbor and the Haven program? And somebody needs to break down that new partnership with the agency for 6 children with behavioral issues. These people have lost their minds, and they just don't understand that they're messing with the lives of people and determining who gets to go and who gets to come and who gets to stay. And they thought that they could determine that I, Darlene Anderson, would not have the ability to stay and share my concerns with my class of 1976, because we were a class that made it happen. But what we didn't look at, and what none of us were ever trained at, is to look at the understanding of the utilization of the investment of federal dollars. Because understand me when I say federal money, I'm talking about the dollars that come back to your local community and actually provide services and jobs and placement and all of those wonderful things. Because when you start looking at the providers and then understand that it's your challenge to get into the program, you have to find a way, because actually no one's going to hold your hand. Absolutely no one's going to help you. You have to seek and understand. That's why they say put it in a book and the black person wouldn't find it. But they can't say that about the net, because simply on the internet, it can read everything to you. And then you don't think about the network administrator that's trying to limit me and how they're going about them trying to limit my my journey. I'm just sharing my life, but limited my ability to communicate with the people who want to follow me. So they just restricted my voice. So I try to push play on the videos and no sound. And people say, "Oh, I'm concerned, darling, because you don't have any sound on your video." Yeah, there was sound on the video, but someone at that program I'm on Facebook decided that they don't want me talking. And I decided that I can still talk. And there's absolutely nothing they can do about limiting me and teaching me the lesson of the fear. They wanted me to be fearful, to understand that they are in control. And they are not, because God's got this. And I'm telling you, when you understand the power within you and you make a decision to sit up and drink that extra alcohol and party and have affairs, and everybody's caught up in this bullshit game because they want to be on television. Life reflects what you watch on television, because it's how these people are acting out. They're not doing anything to demand that we come to the table to share our concerns about the number of children in elementary school who are reaching grade level proficiency, period. No other discussion. Because if you have such a small percentage of children who are reaching grade level proficiency, just going through the system, and I don't know if we're even talking about 30%. California, Sac City Unified School District had 30% of the children who would float through there and actually get the resources. But I got to tell you, as having children with disabilities, all my children or abilities passed the high school exit exam. They did, yes, they passed it. And come on, graduated with a proficiency above basic. And then have never been in any trouble with the law or juvenile facilities, and no interaction inside the school with the referrals to the behavior discipline vice principal. You see? You just have to understand that when we're looking at the money, what we're looking at is positions and titles. But when we're looking at the maintenance of effort, what we're looking at is the data that demonstrates that you did the work. And you have to be able to go back and identify those things that you did to basically transition the change for the distance in which someone was going one way, and then you pulled it back and they became so much more functional over here in the other way. But for parents, somebody please help me, because this is the mentality of the 10 children hopping out of the van, the passenger bus, and then the young man telling me that they take them out to eat on the holidays, as that's what they do as a family. And I'm saying, what the fuck is going on? I don't even think that they can manage those children when they get to the teen years, because you just can't do that to the children and take them away from their families and then expect them to have, there's kinship out there, yes. And we all, as African Americans, have done what? Defied the odds, depending on circles of family, tribes. You know what I'm saying? And we had to defy the odds because we're still standing as a people, even if we're a broken people. And our brokenness demonstrates that the NAACP and their executive committee are always in front of the room, and that they never engage the local people to build capacity within the system because they don't allow them to do anything. And when they do give them things to do, they strictly prescribe what they're going to do and how they want it done. And that is not a free society. And they took my money this time last year for the dues, but if they take some money out of my account this year, they're going to understand who I am, because they didn't even refuse to send me the membership card for the baddest and the boldest this side of the Mississippi, 1111. It's no heaven. And so, anyways, I can't pretend that the Black Caucus and the level of education that is held by the chairperson of the Black Caucus is a reality, because leadership begins in the home, yes, but it also begins with a person who understands what resources look like and can develop and implement a safety plan for the community. And I say this shit hasn't happened. There's no safety plan for the Black people. And, when you allow, you're going to advertise on the radio for Acelero Learning Centers. Acelero Learning Centers. Well, goddamn it, you're advertising, free advertising, saying that perhaps that families can have these resources. And I'm going to tell you, the real deal is that even if families have these resources, they're denied the benefit of participating in the process. Why and how? Simply because why and how means that these people, what they've actually done is just move money and move resources. And they do this well because they hang on to, what am I saying they hang on to? They hang on to the positions, the upper echelon positions. And then they change the color of money. You know what that means? When a person can sit up there on the dais and be a legislator and say, we're going to change the color of this money, then hell, well, that's just fraud. And you're not allowed to supplant. You can supplement, but you're not allowed to supplant. Now, you lay people who don't understand what I'm talking about, who want to be in the front of the room, should understand. Go look up the explanation of supplanting and supplementing. Now, if you're going to supplement anything for the African American people in the Clark County, Nevada, you need to understand this. We need to understand where our children are, just where they are, by age and grade level ability. Because the social promotion aspect of this bullshit has been gone on too long. And why people would accept failure behooves the shit out of me. I'm just trying to understand. They told me my youngest child was severely mentally retarded, communication handicap, and would not benefit from public education. He graduated with a one-on-one aid, a laptop, and above proficient, and I would never put him in a place where he could not be supported. Do you understand what you're looking at when they put this shit on the news of a deaf woman who was accosted by a law enforcement officer and even handcuffed? A deaf person who communicates with their hands was prohibited from communicating. And then to put her children all over the world, her children, her babies, because they were being forced by the law enforcement officer to translate for their mother what he was saying because they could sign. And I'm just going to tell you, in America, this is human dignity. Why? So if we're waiting for the federal government to come in here and give us a hand with this human dignity shit, it's human dignity. Why are they adopting out these black children to white families? And why is it that they're not monitoring the benefit? Because if you have 49% of the children who are African American in the foster care system, goddammit, we need to know as a community just where those children are scoring at or above or below the basic standards. And then Our people need to talk about what needs to happen to support their families, because you just can't keep harvesting our people, giving them to your people, and giving them more money. This is insanity. And they're doing the same thing over and over. They never change their behavior. No, that's not something that they did. I got some of them looks like chips or something. It's plums. And no matter what I say, no matter what I do, I know who I am, and I know I've managed to save my children. Yes, I have. And I've saved lots of my children's friends when they would come over and spend the night at my house all during the high school years. And I did have a house because I had Section 8. But let me tell you a little story about Section 8. Because when I was living in Sacramento, I needed some help with my youngest son because he's in the spectrum of autism. And, all those tasks, those daily tasks that a child has to learn, because the auditory processing, the visual processing, it's not all coordinating the outcomes by just by, you know, sight. And then you have children who can just by sight just sponge up all of they can eat, read, and whatever, and it just becomes a part of who they are, because that's a skill. That's a skill. That's something that's inside of you. That's something that makes you you. And then I had a child that they said was non-specific disability, but he did have a specific problem, which was processing multiple conversations, and they call that an auditory processing disorder. But for you people who are living in this community of Clark County, who cannot even describe the services happening independently for your child, and they're using the money like a checkbook to service all people in Nevada. That's why that Sheriff Joe Lombardo wants to run against our president. Well, it's just real. And so what do you do? I'm just trying to understand how long we're going to deal with this, because I had decided when I got here I wasn't going to deal with it. Now, getting into a Zoom meeting and letting everybody have their say so that everybody knows who they are, so that everybody what? Can do what? What am I saying? Get the money. And there are no requirements for the money. There's just get the money. Write a grant, get the money. So the people that they're supposed to be servicing are the people who look like me and you. And maybe not you and me, just maybe, other colors in the rainbow. But it really doesn't matter, because I just want to know the data for all 5 years olds. And what happened for the 5 year olds that are at grade level proficiency, and what was the delayed start? What was the delayed start in the public education system when we cannot measure the maintenance of effort for the people who look like what? Me and you, boo. I mean, they don't even want to talk about it. And they're not going to talk about it. Oh, my eyes could use some treatment. I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to do this morning, because my eyes are all sunken. I've had such a stressful day, and that you're going to see how I see if it works. This is this product that my sister has got me hooked into, this NeuroFit. And, being fit is a choice in life. And I'm going to be right back. Just give me 1 second. Oh, my goodness. Yes, sirree. In America, if you don't understand the blessing, you don't have a blessing. And that's just real. What am I saying? In America, if you don't understand the blessing, then that's just real. You don't have a blessing. This one goes right here. You put it right under the eye like that. Oh, and it's nice and cold. You put it right there. It's supposed to help with the dark circles under the eye. It appears that I have some. And I got one more in here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go and keep on talking. Feels wonderful. Here it is. What am I doing? Where's my camera? Oh, is it going to show me? It should show something. I don't know if I can do this. Oh, Neor. Moisturizing eye boost. Moisturizing V. Whatever. So let's go back to what I was talking about, because I can talk about anything I want to talk about because I am an American citizen. You understand what citizenship actually brings to the people? It actually brings freedom. And what is freedom? Freedom is what you believe it is. That's it. No more and no more less. Freedom is just you. So, back to what I have to go for a minute. So, I'm going to just be back in a minute. So, just stay live. I'm live on my Facebook stream. I've got my eye patches on. And you want to see, and Grandma's just resting again. What's up? Oh, oh, okay. I did have a phone call and I decided not to log off. Why would I? Because I can live stream on Facebook and they can't stop me. Hey, hey, hey. I'm not putting any music out there. Nope. However, I really did like that Nipsey Hussle. You know, it said we had to come together and we had to file a lawsuit. And, when he started talking about we needed to come together and file a lawsuit, I want y'all to understand where we hitting. What pocket are we knocking at? Because y'all don't understand compulsory law. Under compulsory law, you will attend public schools. Under compulsory law, you will participate in the vaccination program or whatever, or you'll follow the process that they have established for you to eliminate your opportunity to participate. And just being an American, living in America, understand who you are, because you are who you are. And everybody is on a journey, and I can't say where your journey ends and mine begins, but I can tell you one thing, that I don't need to come to a public meeting and listen to your life story, because that's not going to continue to happen. So that's why I stopped. And please, and understand me when I'm saying I'm not trying to be rude, but the real deal is I'm there to try to seek information. If organizations don't even request the information, well, they don't know nothing. Now, I've requested the information from Clark County School District, from not from the harbor itself, but from the state Department of Education. And then I filed an Office of Civil Rights complaint. And then they closed it. Now, this was a long time ago when I first got here. I filed the complaint. And they closed it. And then they told me I could not reopen my complaint because I passed the time frame. So I waited and waited. And then the Department of Justice issued the same findings against Clark County School District. And then I took that, what they did, and I said, hey, how is it that Nevada is not doing something about what they're doing? They're not trying to transition. Do you understand that there are laws that talk about manifestation hearings and the process for manifestation and what that actually means? And what it doesn't look like is a form that a parent would sign that rescinds their responsibility to do what? To govern their children. And then to understand that the Nevada, what do you call those people? Department of Health and Human Services has created a process in which family, one older woman, her two children, can adopt all of these black children. The mama did, probably. I didn't see a man in the picture, but I seen a young man, and he had a job and he had money, and he was just sitting there playing on his phone. I didn't see any of the kids playing on their phone because they didn't have a phone. No, goddamn it, you need to understand we are the harvest, and it's just real. I can't say anything. Whatever I try to say, it doesn't really matter to people who believe that they are leaders. and what leadership is. Leadership is not standing in front of the goddamn room and making a speech about what you know, because what you know is very limited. However, maybe you got it, the position, and it was gifted to you. It didn't really matter. But you're not a leader unless you can understand that each and every one of us is a resource, and how we use them is critical, because we are responsible for the lack of maintenance and outcomes for the people who look like us in our local communities. And when you, as an individual, are paying taxes, and you always have, because you always will, and you don't have to be born in Nevada to speak on Nevada. No, hell, you live in Nevada as a. Let's just call me again. I don't understand why you're calling me again. I'm doing my podcast. I'm gonna have to walk. Just what? I guess I got $40. I'm not gonna deal on that shit. I can do it. Thank you so much. Otherwise, I'm gonna pay like $50 a day to park my car at the airport. Already know what it costs. All right. Nobody does. All right. I'm gonna do it right now. Okay, I'm coming back over there in a minute. I don't want you people to get bored or frustrated with understanding when I say that in America, we are only who we believe we shall be. You know the song, Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. You got me, boo? And all these little things are in your mind, and you don't know what I am talking about. Tiffany Slade. That's right. Okay, I hope it works. I hope it works. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. We've got a package. Well, that's just a mail. Let me see what it says. I have a package coming in the mail, and I'm gonna see what it is. Junk, Anthony. Check the whatever. I don't know that. Plan information. Important plan information. Okay. If you haven't gotten it thus far, I think everybody needs to really go and get this informed delivery on your phone. Sign up for it under the post office, and that way you get to see whatever you're expecting in the mail to come every day. And that way, if you miss the package, then you can share your concerns about missing packages. As in America, the belief of freedom comes from, hey, your limited ability to understand just who you are. And it's not really cold anymore, but I don't think it has to be on there that much longer. How many minutes is it? 20 minutes. That's what it says. I used it. 20 minutes. Okay, so now, what was I telling you about? The importance of engaging. Do you understand when Congress went through this dilemma about the Juneteenth voters' right bill? Juneteenth. Well, I want to understand. We know we can look in all of the poor communities, and how the voices of those people are really not heard, and what happens. I mean, how do you have still toxic waste in communities of color, and people are dying because all the health care pays for that, especially when they're indentured, meaning that they don't have money. So we're paying for that. But when we can't trust our elected officials to clean up the toxic waste things and to hold local business people accountable for what they would do. I mean, Cox here was just emboldened. They had disabled every network adapter on all of my devices so I couldn't log on the internet. And I told them, of my brand new laptop too, that if I could not log in, that they were not going to get a payday. As simple as that. Before the bill was due, all my devices were turned on, except for one, I think the one I gave to my nephew. But, I had to pay for that one to be reinstalled because they had, as the administrator of the computer with the reinstall disk, I could not reinstall my laptop. It just concerns me when network administrators would falsely believe that what they're doing to you cannot be tracked and that no one is looking except for you. Well, wake up, America. Wake up in 2022 because this bullshit is for the bees and it's not for me. So, here in Clark County, Nevada, they also had a boys' conference I was not privy to go to. I signed up for it in time, but then my aunt took ill and I had to go to California for a minute, and I did. And I'm just so blessed that, my son is back in California. Mr. Anderson, John Anderson, very proud of you. But he is there helping with my cousin with her mother. We don't have family values anymore. What we don't have is family. I just need to understand why in a community such as Las Vegas, where black performers, entertainers from all over the world do not look at what they're doing to the people here and then they come and perform. Do you understand what slavery was all about? Maybe you just don't get it. Here, you don't get it because we're still on display. And we don't have any community organization that one could come and have a conversation about what it is they see. But when I go to goddamn In-N-Out Burger, oh wait, what she saying? She's telling me something. This one, I tried to do it. It's not that one. Well, let me go and cancel it. I don't know how to do it. Okay. That's the problem. These people don't want to watch my. I've got to go here to the cash app. I get it. Done. And then go back to the transactions. Here, not that one. Here, not that one. This one. This is complete. Let me see. I don't know how to do it. She's asking me to do shit. And that's the only one I see. So, I need to call her. I don't know. So she'll have to. It'll work. Not in the. Okay, let's see. I just, I don't know. Let me take it off now. I don't know. I think it's a little better. It's not saggy. Maybe just a little bit. So, anyways, here we are, and it is really beyond the time, that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King said the dream of the African American, and just to be humans, just to be American citizens, But when somebody would not honor your a right or your ability to be an American citizen, you just need to check them because you are free. You are an American. But it's the problem that what we don't do as a people, where there is no room as a people. There is no room and no ability for our people to do what? What am I saying? To stand up, and that's just real. Because you can't stand up when somebody's always been on your back for your whole entire life. And I remember my sister working at Cosumnes River College, and she was able to do all kind of things as long as people were not aware of what she was doing. But when we got, and she was so successful. Well, I just got to tell you, that success was real. And what happened under that success? Well, she was just able to, provide real resources and real things that people cared about. Because she had the Microsoft Family Technology Nights. She created the PI for Sac City Unified School District, and they're still doing it. She had the Welfare to Work program, and I guess somebody else in Sacramento is doing the Welfare to Work program, but she had 50,000 hours that volunteered through her. She got no you know, recognition for the work that she was doing in the district. But, the district just continued to dwindle and go down. Why? Because the people who were supposed to be doing the work, we just never did the work. And guess what? They didn't have to. Why? Because we need to understand that the work is assessed and evaluated by the people who should be receiving those benefits. And how do you do that when that's not your job. You ain't got time to do that. You done worked all your whole life. And now you ready to retire and sit your ass on the hill and do absolutely nothing. Well, guess what, boo? Shit has changed so drastically. No, you can talk about people not having basic skills, but there's nothing set up to establish that our people continue to have any resources because the harbor says that they harvested 15,000 children. 15,000. That means they don't have the data for the manifestation data for those children that they moved into the program. And that's what I said. Where's your manifestation data? She's going to act like she doesn't have to give me anything. Their NRS code. Well, I'm telling you, according to your NRS code, you struck all the responsibilities to get that data together, and you did it on May 19th, 2020. Yeah, that's what happened. It was a legislative thing that happened that the district said what they were not going to do. So these are staff people who determined that they weren't going to do the work. And they took it all the way back to 2016. But I'm going to tell you, if the waiver comes through Nevada, Nevada will have to produce the data. And then we'll have to talk about what they did to change the circumstances of those children. But when they don't have anything that they're doing to change the circumstances of those children, you better understand this, what I'm saying. That we are living in the end days. And they have to provide your children with the same opportunity that they provide their children. And first of all, they need to figure out how we're going to come to the table because I've met Jara. I've seen him on several occasions. We didn't have an opportunity to shake hands, and I wouldn't shake his hand now if I had an opportunity to. And we're not on the same page, so I'm not elbow bumping him. And he doesn't speak to the black people. And I don't have to beg anybody to speak to me because, the Lord always spoke to me. And he told me, you know what you need to know, so go ahead and go. Go and grow, my friend. And that's what I'm saying. Because the real deal is that in America, and in the America that I know, that we are all free and subject to personal responsibility. Now, that subject to personal responsibility is real. It says, I don't know how to block the other one. Okay, okay. She's going to show me how to do something. Some crazy shit. Okay, I was on one. Now I'm not on one. Mm. And she said something. What does it say here? Hmm. Oh my goodness, I can't do things like that. People want to tell me what they think they know, and I know what they know. Okay, now let's talk about America, and let's talk about this, uh, you know, child care intervention that's happening here in Clark County as African Americans are perceived to have a large number of children in foster care system. But when they allow these children to be, adopted through a process and then you pay money, you continue to pay the money to what? You pay money so that, because it's mandatory. Everybody pays taxes. Don't you get it? Everybody pays taxes here in America. All right. And so you just don't, we're so broken, we just follow the process, we just follow the rules. And so when I try to go to a board meeting, because I really understand public education, to be ignored by board members, to not have the ability to sit down and have a conversation with any of them, and for them to take in advisement what I said, and then ignore it because they have no data. They're not doing what they should be doing in the first place. They have no data, the disaggregated data that demonstrate that all children have the same level of access, and they don't. So hell no. Do you think I'm quitting? I'm not quitting. I'm not stopping. I'm just gonna continue to, you know, mosey on, keep coming forward. Just keep on keeping on because this is bullshit. But it's painful to understand that people have no value, no worth here in America. African American children walking around, they don't care about nothing. Why should they care? Nobody ever cared about them. And when they make education all about their ability to understand what they're being taught, and then they provide no empirical data that demonstrates that these children even had an opportunity to engage in the process because everything is about their behavior, and you did nothing to ensure that access happened. And I say that they're in the most restrictive environment, and it's time for a change. And we're going to change because there are many, many African American people that sit in legislative seats who do not use the community in a in a justifiable way. So therefore, it's real. And I don't care what you think. I don't care about what people think about who I am, but understand me, I know the maintenance of effort means the data will come to the table and we'll have a discussion about it. But until we, the people, can discuss the number of children who refuse to go in this wonderful program called Acelero, when they have 34 Head Start centers, but they have one in Clark County with 350 students. And then they have preschool programs that are attached to schools, but Clark County School District doesn't do early start. They leave this to a commission called the IFC. I don't know what they do, but you don't see what I see. And as you do not see what I see, then I have to talk about the fraud that I do see. And I'm sorry, they don't get to create a program for 6 children, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with behavioral issues in some kind of living program, and they're going to put some millions of dollars down on it because that's the organization that is expected to give the data for the sampling of data that they believe that they have to provide. And I'm sorry, boo. No, it's more than a sampling the data. Don't you understand when the data says you're required for the data, it's for everybody? So no. And then so you're going to keep on begging the district to help you or the state to help you get a waiver? I'm sorry, boo, that shit don't work. There's no there's no begging in this. It's not going to happen. The state can't give you a waiver and you're going to do the damn work. And I promise you the work will be done. And that's just real because I understand what the work looks like. And I can see if the work's happen or not happen. But when the work just never happens, well, I'm just trying to understand. How do you think we should feel about that? When you want to parade George Floyd on television for more than a month or 2 months or wherever he died, how do you think that African American people should feel about that? Well, I told you I was devastated and broken behind that. And that's how come you're going to have to deal with me now because, hey, pimping ain't easy, but goddamn, you motherfucker have mastered this shit. And that's just real. So, and in America, where our children are required to go to school by law. This is a compulsory system that is operating in every state across these 50 states. And across these 50 states, we, the people, the African American people, have no ability to monitor, to look at the outcomes for the investment that we all pay for. And this is just criminal. You don't understand fraud? Well, I understand discrimination, and I feel that I'm being discriminated against. Simply why? Because I am being prohibited from participating in the conversation. And don't invite me to the table to engage with me in regards to what the requirements for IDEA Part B are, because those are regulations in the law. Regulations in the law, and you must do. And when you don't have evidence of doing anything, well, boo, I hope you weather the storm because it's getting ready to get real rocky up in this place. And I really mean it. Because you think I'm going away? Hell no, I'm not. I'm not going to let them just take the money and squander our children's lives. This shit is over. And I really want you to understand, Facebook, the more you try to mess with me, the more I'm going to pay to ensure that access happens to the people who live in Clark County who are following me. Because I got my anchor program. And then the social media spot that you run in Facebook, whatever, it's just I see it as a tool. It's not anything else other than a tool. And I don't use it to look for anything because I'm not searching for anything out there. But you don't see what I see. And I see fraud. And it's just me. I'm assuming it's just me that sees the fraud. But it's not me, right? Because you too know. You know that the federal government is looking into your dirty deeds. And before this shit is really over, all shit is going to hit the fan. All shit is going to hit the fan. Because it can't do anything else but hit the fan and splatter out there. Because you people have stolen everything. You don't have any really coordinated services. And then the Haven. How did that woman adopt 10 African American children when an African American parent, single parent, can't have a roof over her head because she had a baby? But then you're going to give it to this woman over here who's white. And then you're going to pay her a whole lot of money for that child's entire life. And what is that child getting? That's what I want to know. Because there's no monitoring of what's happening with the transition of moving our children into these foster families and then for them to adopt them and to get more money than their family would have on welfare. And I'm sorry, this shit is not working. It's just broken. And because y'all doing it and you feel that you're doing it in secret, and it's not a secret, it's very visual. There's a corruption here. It's very visual with the lack of outcomes and the lack of maintenance. And I'm sorry, but it's over now. And it's time to go. So people who don't have jobs, well, your job really wasn't a job anyway. You ain't nobody missed you. So miss me with that. Miss me with that continued payment money. And for organizations who refuse to utilize the people within the organization for the capacity to build, well, miss me with that. Because it's a new day and a new dawn. And that requires that everybody step up. So the word is e pluribus unum. I mean, there's one, but who will you be in 2022? That's going to change my. I'm going to change my whole groove line, and say who you going to be in 2022, because you damn sure didn't do shit in 2021. That's what I'm going to say, because we're still not at the table, and I don't care if the governor has an African American man there that sits at the table. He don't represent me, and I don't care if there were. I don't care that actually, I don't care that there are no African American people on the governing board of Clark County School District, because they still have an obligation to see what I see as an American citizen. And when I see failure and fraud, that they should have been all over that. But hell, when your top person that does your what do you call these alternative programs has a program on his own, well, get a clue, boo. I didn't hear he resigned anytime. But you can't work for a district and have a contract through the district and still do services for the people. And then you can't legislate from the bench and then create opportunities for your local school district or whatever to benefit, because you never chose to apply for the rural schools grant. There is a rural schools grant, and there's just money out there to deal with issues, and state have burdens, and you are not developed enough to understand that flexibility is just what it is. It is not the intent to steal. But oh no, y'all done lost your mind. Just became totally crazy and wished that you could tell me every single day for 3 months, and I was a menace and I could not live stream. I don't know how you thought that shit was going to go down, but it didn't go down really good. You know, it just didn't go down. It was a bitter pill, and now I'm here. And I'm going to be here, and I'm not going anywhere. So the word is e pluribus unum. Out of many, there's one, and out of one, there'll be none. But who will you be in 2022 is coming, is all around the corner, boo. Wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Because we are only Americans, no more than that, in the color of our skins. We live in the United States of America, and that allows us to coordinate services that are coordinated together to do what? To build capacity for the people who need the services. And we all pay. So, we have to understand that we all pay. And as we all pay, the benefits should be measured and monitored. And that is the obligation of a state. But when the state is all in the bed doing things that they shouldn't be doing, I'm sorry. New day, new you, new dawn. And it's over. Because they're not going to continue with the harbor. I'm sorry, the harbor is just criminal. Something that should have never evolved. And criminality is real. But it's something that exists. And so all these mentors in the Black Mentor, the board is full of Black folks for the mentoring for the state. And I said, well, what do you do? Oh, we just make suggestions for mentoring. I said, well, how do you work it out on the local school side? So we don't know anything about that. And see, you can't have one hand doing something and the other hand doing something. You don't know about shit. And so that's just real. I'm just disgusted with the number of African Americans who have been placed in foster care homes, who have adopted these children. Maybe they don't have more than 14. Maybe that's the law, because now they've adopted the 14. Can you imagine the money that goes into the services for? I tell you why, because you don't know. But for what across this nation, for every 100 children who are deemed to be neglected and delinquent in the foster care system, will generate a state revenue of $1 million for every 100. And since Nevada just has nothing but poverty, don't you understand how the money is coming? The money is here. But when it comes down to the use of the money and how they have to document how they spent the money, well, this is the dilemma that that's happening right now, because they must document with data how they utilize those funds. And oh, happy day. 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 We're going to see the data. Yes, we are. We're going to see the data. Yes, we are. And we're blessed today. Today is the day that we need to see the data for how they're providing services to the people who look like me in Clark County School District, because they have to do it. And they just have to do it. It's called the civil rights data. And I looked, and all of those schools who chose not to participate in the civil rights data, well, let's just see how lucky you are in getting your reimbursement. Boo. It's to supplement supplement, not supplant. Do you understand the words? To supplement, not supplant. The word is today to supplement and not supplant. So what are you doing for African American children in 2022 is going to be far more than what you have done ever. And I do mean ever, ever, ever. So the word is, y'all have a great day. And I'm going to sign off for now. Oh, I think I'm, I don't know. I'm just going to say that, whenever there's a judicial influence, then it's legislating from the bench. The laws have already been written in regards to public education. The mandates are already there, written in the law. And the mere fact that y'all don't have any data that would give you the opportunity to hang on to some of that money. Because when you don't spend it in the year that it was generated, the right to return to the federal government and redistribute is what happens next. And it is not that you get to redistribute, boo. You don't get to change the color of money. So all those times you guys were saying you were changing the color of money, well, you getting ready to change the color of money because y'all getting ready for the big payback. The big payback! Hey, big payback is going to happen. Y'all have a great day.